So Miss Usha Ramlakan is an educational psychologist, a young woman of diverse specialties and passions. She epitomizes conviction for consistent self-improvement. She holds a Master of Arts in Education Psychology from Andrews University and a Master's of Arts in Education Administration and Leadership from the University of the Southern Caribbean. She completed the Level 1 training in Gottman Method Couples Therapy and is pursuing Level 2 along with Treating Affairs and Trauma from Gottman Institute. She also holds certification in situation-focused brief counseling. All right. In addition to a growing professional life, Ms. Ramlakan has a deep passion to assist individuals to develop a holistic approach through her private practice, Dare to Live coaching services. Through facilitating workshops, counseling, and coaching clients, she has transformed lives and helped to cultivate healthy relationships. Her passion is to help those who struggle with emotional and psychological issues, work or social anxieties, relationship challenges, along with other mental health challenges. She believes that every individual is different and every situation varies greatly. It is therefore her goal to apply her knowledge as a psychologist to assist those in need. It is also her conviction that small lifestyle changes can make a big difference in the overall well-being of a person to live his or her best life. So at this time, we want to welcome Ms. Usha Ramlakan to speak to us on this very, very important topic. We are so happy that you have decided to be here to enlighten us, and we are so excited and we await what you have to share with us. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Kara. It's always good to be here with Longdenville. I consider Longdenville as family, so it's always a delight to serve whenever I'm asked. I am happy to connect with all of you, about a topic that we all feel very passionate about. We're all passionate about helping people, especially those who are struggling and suffering with suicidal thoughts. And as most supposed to know, whether it be from our work or from our personal lives or even from a church, there are some people that struggle with suicidal thoughts chronically. And they don't go away. And maybe they have periods without them, but they generally come back. And so today, what I really want to focus on is helping those individuals. What can we do? What can you do? What can I do to help those who struggle with chronic suicidal thoughts? And I would share with you some practical applications and tips that you can share and you can collaboratively discuss with your friends, your family, your church members. And we'll also talk about a plan for safety and how we can soothe emotional pain. And so today, let me share my screen. Give me one quick second. All right. Kara, you all seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So today we are going to look at suicide prevention awareness. It's not just one day though, maybe one day it's recognized, but the entire month of September is focused on suicide prevention awareness. And our theme for today is Hold On, Pain Ends. And we are going to look at today, we're going to look at what is suicide. We're going to identify the signs of someone who's thinking about suicide. I'm going to introduce this new thing called the 3-step theory for you to understand what someone thinks and go through when they're thinking about suicide. And then we're going to look at how we can develop a safety plan for someone who's thinking about suicide and ways in which we can show support. And so I'm going to start off by showing you all. Tell me if you all are hearing the video loud and clear. I'm going to show you all a video.
We have lost far too many lives traveling the path to this day.
Since 1937, over 2,000 people have died at the Golden Gate Bridge. I feel lucky to be alive every single day. Of the thousands that have died off the Golden Gate Bridge, I am of the 1% who have survived. So I was born on drugs and premature, and then I bounced around from home to home. Nobody wanted to keep me because I was sick, and I got lucky. I landed in the home of Patrick and Deborah Hines. I had a great childhood. I thought growing up that everything's gonna be great, and then at 17, it all came crashing down. If you can imagine feeling that everyone around you is out to get you, trying to hurt you, and trying to kill you, and you believe that to be the truth. From the extreme paranoia, I exhibited symptoms of mania. From the mania came the hallucinations, both auditory and visual. And so with that and the bipolar disorder, I just was spiraling out of control. I vividly remember writing my suicide note. People don't get it. Like, I thought I was a burden to everyone who loved me, because that's what my brain told me, because that's how powerful your brain is. I got off the bus. I walked slowly down the walkway of the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, people rode by me, drove by me, walked by me, and a woman approached me and she said, "Will you take my picture?" She said thanks and she walked away. It was that moment I just said, nobody cares. The reality was that everybody cared. I just couldn't see it. I ran forward and using my two hands, I catapulted myself into free fall. What I'm about to say is the exact same thing that 19 Golden Gate Bridge jump survivors have also said. The millisecond my hands left the rail, it was an instant regret. And I remember thinking, no one's gonna know that I didn't want to die. In 4 seconds I fell 75 miles an hour, 25 stories, and I hit the water. I was in the most physical pain I had ever experienced, The Coast Guard was amazing. He was just so freaked out that I was alive that he just dove in and brought me on board. The guy said, "Do you know how many people we pull out of this water that are already dead?" And I said, "No, and I don't want to know." The guy put his hand on my forehead, said, "Kid, you're a miracle." My father took one step into the hospital room, and I looked up at him and I said, "Dad, I'm sorry." And he said, "No, Kevin, I'm sorry." And if you think about it, both of our immediate reactions were guilt. Guilt that didn't belong to either of us. And even though I didn't die, I caused people a great deal of grief and pain. Just the day of my attempt still sits within them today. I asked my father if he still feared my death by suicide. He said every time the phone goes off, his first inclination is Kevin alive. I had that impact on my dad. So after the jump, the road to recovery was pretty long. I had 7 psych ward stays in the next 11 years. I still have all the symptoms I ever had. Mania, depression, psychosis, hallucinations, all that's still there. I just know how to cope with it and I know how to beat it. I built a support network over these years of treatment so that I wouldn't be fighting this alone. So like, it's okay not to be okay. It's not okay not to ask for someone to back you up. To the families who live with the loss or losses of loved ones, they didn't do that to hurt you or destroy your life. They took their lives because they were struggling and in a great deal of emotional and mental pain. Suicide, mental illness, and addiction are the only diseases that we blame the person for perpetually. But people die from suicide just like they die from any other organ diseased. Today, no matter the pain I'm in, no matter the struggles I experience, I do believe that life is the greatest gift we've ever been given. And if you're suffering mentally, don't wait like I did, sitting in denial for so long. Because recovery happens. I'm living proof.
All right, guys. So looking at that video, what is the one thing that stood out to you? Anybody want to share?
The fact that he said the moment he let go the railing, he had an instant regret.
Exactly. And so we realize that someone who attempts to kill themselves, it may not be that they want to, but they are feeling so overwhelmed by the trauma, by the issues, by the mental agony, by the pain, by the lack of being able to cope. They are feeling overwhelmed that they don't see a way out. And they feel as though they're a burden, and they jump or they attempt to kill themselves, not because they want to, but because they don't know how to handle the pain. And so this is something that I want us to remember forever, that what someone is going through when they are thinking about committing suicide, it's not the way we judge others when we say, oh, they're looking for attention. You know, we quick to say that, right? We quick to say when someone attempts suicide that, oh, they're just looking for attention. Or when someone say, and the other thing is that generally when people attempt to speak about their mental illness, it's almost as if we are judging them, almost as if we are saying that they are looking for attention. So they don't come out in the open and say it because we judge them. And so we need to create a space where people can feel comfortable to come and say, listen, I'm having some thoughts and I need some support. I'm battling with something emotionally or mentally, and I need to tell someone. And you might be the only person that they may tell. And you might be the link between their surviving or not. And so Kevin, in this story, shared with us that when he jumped, it's not something, he didn't want to die. He just wanted the pain to end. And so we see that according to the World Health Organization, suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in all age groups. More than 700,000 people die due to suicide every year. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth between the ages of 10 and 34. And 77% of global suicides occur in low and middle income countries. Ingestion of pesticides, hanging, firearms, those are among the most common methods of suicide globally. And for every suicide attempt, there are 25. For every suicide, there are 25 suicide attempts. And so suicide is a problem of humanity, but it is preventable. And so we can't always convince someone to want to stay and want to live, but what we can do is be kind. Be kind to everyone. Be kind to people on social media. Be kind to the person sitting next to you in the taxi or at school. You know, that is what we can do. We can be kind. We can show support. We can encourage someone. We can encourage them to get help. We can encourage them to speak up. And we can check in on our loved ones. Many times we take for granted that our loved ones are okay, and we do not do that little basic mental health check-in. How are you doing today? So you never know what someone is going through. No matter who they are, no matter who you think they are, we all battle with things mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and we all struggle. And so it is important for each of us to accept the responsibility to check in on a friend, to check in on a loved one, to check in on your AY leader, to check in on your Sabbath school superintendent, to check in on your pastor. And so while suicide do not have a face, it can affect anyone and everyone, but it is preventable. And so let's look at what is suicide. Suicide is a death that is caused by self-directed injurious behavior, with any intent to die as a result of that behavior. So whether it be hanging, whether it be gun, whether it be taking some type of pesticide or overdosing on medicine, once death comes out of it, it is considered suicide. Now, suicide attempt is where you may have attempted to take your life, whether it be a non-fatal self-directed injury. So you had intentions to die as a result of the behavior, but that attempt may or may not result in an injury. So that's the difference between suicide and suicide attempt. Now, suicide is something that is everyone's business. And if it's not everyone's business, we should now make it everyone's business, because as I mentioned before, we do not know what someone is going through, and we all struggle on a day-to-day basis, mentally, emotionally, physically, and psychologically. And the signs to be able to identify if someone is going through any issues or challenges. Generally, someone with suicide, all they wanted was the pain to stop. They were feeling like a burden, so we need to assure them that they are not. And most times they feel hopeless. And so that is generally the signs for someone where they generally want the pain to stop. They generally feel like they're a burden, and they generally feel hopeless. Now, if you notice that your friend or child or brother or sister or mother or father or friend is either sleeping too little or too much, but keep in mind, these are not the only symptoms, okay? So you don't want to look at only one symptom or one sign and say, well, now I think she contemplated suicide because she's sleeping all day. There are a number of factors which I'm listing out here for you to consider, for you to look at, for you to observe behavioral changes, to not label the person as someone who wants to commit suicide, but to open a discussion on it, right? So number one, is the person sleeping too little or sleeping too much? Is the person visiting family members and friends or calling them to say goodbye? Are they talking about generally, I feel like a burden to my parents, I feel like a burden to my grandmother or to my friends, I feel like I don't belong here? Do they begin to isolate themselves? The things that they used to do, they no longer want to do. The things that they used to find enjoyment and they no longer want to participate in whether socially or otherwise. They have extreme mood swings, and those extreme mood swings will now lead to exhibiting depressive moods. Are they withdrawing from social relationships? Are they losing interest in things like some things like church or things like going, well, we can't really go out, but even socializing in a safe space, are you losing interest in those usual activities? Are you looking for a way to kill yourself? Like, are you looking around the house to see what kind of pills they have in this house, boy? What weapon can I use? What weapon am I brave enough to use? Are they increasing the use of drugs and alcohol? Do they have any previous suicide attempts? Which would definitely be something to pay attention to. Are they writing any messages on social media or letters or posts to say goodbye, to my Facebook family or my Instagram family? It was nice knowing you all. I just wanted to say goodbye. What kind of messages are they writing on social media? Are they writing goodbye messages? Are they having difficulty eating? When people are going through these deep depressive mood swings, they may have difficulty eating, they will have difficulty sleeping. Are they doing anything to self-harm themselves? Are they feeling as if there are no solutions to their problems? Because most times when they reach that point, it's because they're seeing their situation and what they are going through as there's no way out. Almost as if the problem that they are experiencing, it's overwhelming them and it's taking over everything about them. And so they can't see a solution to where they are right now. Pay attention also to those who may have had a new diagnosis. And that new diagnosis, they may not know how to adjust to that new diagnosis. And so they may feel as though they will become a burden and they don't want to become a burden. Or if they are already diagnosed and their symptoms are worsening, they may feel like, I don't think I want to be around because my situation, my health is worsening and I don't want to be around. Pay attention to those things as well. If someone may have experienced a recent loss, whether it be a father, mother, boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, a child, any type of loss that they may have recently experienced can drive them to feeling hopeless. So pay attention to persons within that category. Are they very impulsive in what they do? Let me just apologize. My neighbor's dog is barking, so I don't know if it's interrupting or if it's affecting you all, but that is happening while I'm presenting. But these online social things, social media, social platforms, it can happen. So let me just apologize for it. Do you notice that the persons are giving away important possessions, things that they once valued, they now say, hey, you could have this. And you might be like, but that is something you always treasured, you always kept close to your heart. Why are you giving it away? You know, they may feel like they want you to have this thing that is very important to them because they have plans. They have plans to take their life. Pay attention to their physical appearance. Is it that they're no longer tending to their physical appearance? They no longer care how they look. They're no longer taking care of their hair, their face, their body, their health, their hygiene. And so all those little things can give you an indication. Are they going so far as to make funeral arrangements? You know, because they don't want their family to have to deal with it if and when they do. So they decide to put everything in place. You know, making funeral arrangements is definitely an indicator. Is it that they're gaining weight because they're eating because they don't know how to deal with whatever emotional or psychological that is affecting them? Is it that they're losing weight because they are not eating, not sleeping, not resting? Look at their energy levels from who you know them to be to how they are now will also be an indicator. This person who was once very in control and very quiet and nice and pleasant is now having these outer timing emotional outbursts, or may even be picking an argument with others because they want to have a break in the relationship, so that when they're thinking in their mind that when they do commit suicide, you know, it will be easier for the person to deal with. So they're trying to create this distance in the relationships. And so these are just some of the signs that you can generally pay attention to with your friends, your loved ones, your family members, your church members, who you know them to be and who they are now, or the signs that you are seeing. Pay attention to it. And when you pay attention to it, we will get into later on what to do when you observe these signs. And so suicide doesn't always sound like I want to kill myself. So don't wait for somebody to come up to you and say, "Here, what, Kyra, I feel like I want to kill myself." Generally, people may not come up to you and say that, but they may say something to you like, "Gil, I feeling like I just want to sleep and sleep and sleep, and I don't even want to get off this bed." Or it may sound like, "Here now, you see this life out here? I don't see what's the point in it anymore, you know. It just don't make sense." It may also sound like, "Mom, you know what? I don't know, but I feel like I'm just a burden in this family. Like nothing I do is good enough. I just feel like it's better I just leave this." You know, listen to the things that they are saying. You would not, don't wait for someone to come to you and say, "Yeah, I feel I want to kill myself." The likelihood of that happening is slim, right? Whatever they are going through, let's say they are going through the loss of a best friend, and they're feeling that loss to the point where they say, "You know what, I don't feel like I want to be here anymore. Like life is not worth it anymore without my best friend. I just want to end this pain that I'm feeling," you know, and going through different type of relationships and just going through life in general, and going through problems that you feel is overwhelming, so to the point where you feel like, "Why am I even here? You know what, I wish I was never born." I know that sometimes people say things out of anger, but we have to pay attention to all the signs and symptoms, as well as pay attention to what is being said. When we do that, we can then recognize whether or not this person needs further attention. We should not take it for joke. We should not take it like, "Oh, they're just looking for attention. Don't worry, Sheena, she's just looking for attention." You know, we're quick to say that. But in a case like this, it is better to be safe than sorry. So you take it seriously, right? Now, this is something new that I'm going to share with you all. A 3-step theory. Are you in pain and hopeless? This 3-step theory is generally, hold on. Okay. Okay, so this 3-step theory is important because it's a framework for looking at suicidal thoughts and behavior. So starting out with the 3-step theory, it is an important framework, and it recognizes that all people have diverse individualized pathways that bring them to the point where they are desiring suicide or they might die by suicide. And there are some commonalities that we can recognize. So the first step of the theory is, what it proposes is that all people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts, who have suicidal thoughts, desire, or in some type of pain, and that pain is driving them to want to escape it by thinking of ending their lives. So in addition, the framework proposes that people have to be hopeless about the pain improving. And as all of us have experienced pain at different points in our lives, if we have some hope, that we are going to get through it and that things will change, it feels really different than if that pain is paired with hopelessness and feeling like there's no way out of that pain. So we can relate. There are times when we may feel pain, but we know that we will get over it. We have that confidence that we'll get over it. But imagine that same pain paired with someone who is feeling hopeless, who is feeling like there's no way out of that pain. So if someone has pain and they feel hopeless, then the suicidal desire arises according to this theory. And so let's look at the second step. Something that also impacts suicidal thoughts or the person's connections to their life. And this can include relationship roles, which projects different ways that they are drawn to life. So if the pain is greater than the connections to life, and the pain is very high or low, that leads to especially strong suicidal desire. Whereas someone who's experiencing pain, but still have connections to life, will have a more modest level of suicidal desire. So you see the importance of connections to life, whether it be connection to an individual, connection to a goal, connection to a dream, something that connects them. If they feel disconnected, they are more likely to have that level of suicidal desire. Now, let's look at the final step, the third step, which talks about who goes on to attempt suicide, as we know. Many more people have suicidal thoughts and they consider suicide, and then they will go on to attempt it. But through this framework, which is built upon the interpersonal theory of suicide by Thomas Joyner, he and his colleague were part of this, and they came up with the fact that suicide is inherently fearful. So we all have a strong survival instinct. And that survival instinct can protect people even with suicidal thoughts, from attempting suicide because of fear of pain and the end of their life. However, people who are capable of attempting suicide, if they have the means to do it, if they have lowered fear, then they are at the highest risk of suicide attempt. So are you capable of attempting suicide? And if yes, then it means that they are more likely to attempt it. If no, it means that they are just having the desire. So this framework is important theoretically because it guides research, it guides science, but I also find it important clinically and practically because it highlights various points of intervention. So it says that if you can intervene on pain and hopelessness and connections to life, if we can intervene with capability of attempting suicide, then we should be able to help people who are struggling and even save their lives. So those are the points at which we can intervene. The point where they feel pain and they feel hopelessness, the point where they feel as they do not have any connections in their life, and the part where they are struggling. These are the areas where we can help to save someone's lives. And so this is what is considered the three-step theory. And from that now, you want to help someone who's considering suicide, you want to help them develop a safety plan, a crisis plan. In that moment, you would not be with them when they are thinking about it. But if you know, or if you know that based on all the signs and symptoms and what we discussed so far, you know that, this is someone that you need to pay attention to. This is someone that requires additional support and help. You help them to develop a safety plan, a crisis plan. Now, this is generally something that is done on a clinical level with a therapist or a counselor. But even so, you can also help your friend or your loved one to develop a crisis plan in the interim, so that in case of an emergency, they have something that they can fall back on. Right? So let's look at this crisis plan. So starting first, I want to talk about planning for safety. And this actually reflects the third step that we spoke about just now in the 3-step theory, which is capability for attempting suicide. But it's so important that I wanted to put it first, even though it's the third step in the theory. So something that can reduce the capability for attempting suicide is making sure that there are alternative safe plans that someone has in place. And once someone is struggling with suicidal thoughts, it can be really hard to think about coping skills. So imagine if you were going through something and somebody trying to teach you coping skills. You are already feeling overwhelmed with what you are going through. Thinking about coping skills may not be the best thing for you in that moment. It can be very hard to think about other things that might be helpful. And so collaboratively, you can help that person to develop a crisis plan that can be one that can help to reduce the capability for attempting suicide. And that is the objective of the crisis plan. So crisis plans vary, but here are some common factors that tend to be helpful. One sign is that the person is in crisis. I am in crisis. So think of some individuals when they, especially if they would have had chronic suicidal ideation. It's hard to identify when it is, right? Their mindset is now shifting into more and more dangerous zones. And so this is this safety plan is very individualized. So it's not something that I wanted to take one and fit all. It might mean that their sleeps might be disrupted, or they have lost their appetite, or they are not enjoying things that they used to. They are not spending time with their friends, and so on. And so we really want to nail down what are the signs that I can look for when I am crisis. So you're helping this individual to think of what are the things that I would generally do if I am in crisis. If I am someone who is thinking about suicide, that means I am in that crisis zone. What are some of my habits that would lend my family and my friends to think that I am in crisis? Okay, well, number one, I will probably be in bed all day. 2, I probably wouldn't be too interested in eating. 3, I may not want to go out with friends and family. I may want to isolate. Remember, every crisis plan is different and it is individualized depending on the individual. So you develop what are the things that can give me an indication that you are in crisis. That's the first step that you are going to look at. And then, so you think about interpersonal connections. They are important. So I would also encourage them to ask other people in their lives, what are things that they notice when someone is heading into a crisis zone? And in that way, they can identify when they need to use this crisis plan. So a second part is include reasons why. They want to live when these suicidal thoughts take over. When these suicidal thoughts take over the pain, keep in mind that they want to live. Remember the video we looked at? Kevin Hines wanted to live, but he didn't know he wanted to live until he jumped. So the person who is thinking about or who's having these suicidal thoughts, they do want to live, but the pain can be overwhelming. The pain can lead them into that tunnel vision where all they are thinking and all they are seeing about is taking their life. So it can make any reasons for wanting to live seem so far away. So that crisis plan it makes it more salient. And these are the reasons that I want to stay connected and I want to live. So you help them now to come up with reasons why I want to live. Even though I'm feeling overwhelmed, even though the pain is taking me over, even though I feel like I'm a burden, I want to live. And so you help them to come up with reasons why they want to live. And sometimes it can be hard for people to think about that. And one tool that I found helpful is you can go online and search for the living inventory tool. That and the living inventory tool by Marshall Linehan or Linehan, I think, so that it can guide you as to, but keep in mind, as I said, these are things that you'd want a professional to do. But if you are in a situation before having to reach the point of a professional, these are some basic things that you can work with the person. You know, at home, you must be able to know, what are some of the things my children will be doing if they were in crisis? Well, let me see if I can help them to recognize some reasons why they should live or why they want to live. And another huge part of getting through a crisis is not having to do it on your own and feeling like you are in it by yourself, because there are people you can reach out to. There are people who care. There are people who would want to listen to you now than to attend your funeral. So one way that I try to think about that is that there are people in our lives that may serve different roles and they may meet different needs. So 3 of the ones that I like to include in my crisis plans would be people that you would list specifically to lift your spirits. These don't have to be people you are completely open about everything you know. They don't have to be a bestie of best to know. They just have to be the ones who can lift your spirit. Someone who you know that once you're in their presence, a smile comes to your face, almost as if you forget whatever you are going through. Lift my spirit. One thing that works for me, well, it's 2 actually, like being around my baby nephew. You can't help but love being around children. They just add a smile to your face. They say the craziest things, and they just do the most loving thing. And so one of the things that if I had to create a crisis plan for me, it would be lift my spirit, will be around children or be around babies or whatever, or go into nature. Nature is my safety space. And so lift my spirit. So you choose people that you can be around that will lift your spirit. And but maybe they are just nice to talk to, right? And if you are in a crisis, that kind of lifts your mood, and that's what you need in that moment. In that very moment, you need someone that can lift your spirit. And that person might be that for you. They don't have to be your best friend. You don't have to depend on your best friend or your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister for everything. There are different people in your lives that will serve a different purpose. Now, then there are other people who feel safe sharing their feelings with, maybe it's other people who have been through similar things, or people who maybe you have known for a long time. And so you may feel comfortable talking about this tunnel that you are in, this emotional hole that you are in, this psychological depression that you are in. And so you may feel more comfortable talking about it with John than you may feel talking about it with Paul. And it is okay. Whomever you are comfortable with sharing your feelings, the most important thing is that you are letting it out. You are sharing those feelings. And then thirdly, it's important to have people to get advice from on how to cope, and the safety that often include, and that safety, coping and safety, that element often leads you into a therapist or a counselor. So you may have people you can talk to, whether it be your pastor or an elder or a youth leader. But at this stage of coping and safety, it is best to recommend or help the person to speak to someone that is of a therapist level, a counselor level, or a pastor or clergy level, right? And so these are ways in which to keep yourself safe. It's really important for reducing the capability for suicide, because the research suggests that if someone has the means, right? If someone has the means by dying by suicide, whether it's be using a gun, whether it's be using medication, whether it's be an overdose, whether it be hanging, whatever means, they will use it. They are at a higher risk for attempting suicide. So ways to keep yourself safe. It means then that when you understand the ways in which this person can attempt suicide, you now would list those things about storing the gun away in a safe space, removing all medications from home and knives and stuff like that. So this is where ways in which you can keep yourself safe, because you now identify these are the ways in which you are thinking about attempting suicide. So now all the elements that surround that, you have to remove it from that environment. And whatever else they are thinking about using to die by suicide, you have to remove it from that environment. And so another part is to acknowledge that when someone is in crisis, we want to keep them safe. That is what is really important. But we also want to validate that they are in crisis because they are in an intense emotional pain. So someone who is in crisis, it means that whatever they are feeling, whatever they are going through, it's intense. And they're feeling in that moment hopeless. And they are feeling in that moment overwhelmed. And they are feeling in that moment a burden. So one of the things you want to do is you want to be able to help them. You want to validate what they are feeling. But you also want to come up with ways to reduce that intense emotional pain. And so a good crisis plan, in my opinion, includes ways to rapidly reduce some of that intense emotional pain. And of course, you want the person to be able to have emergency numbers at their disposal. They won't always be with you 24/7. And so wherever they are, when they're experiencing these emotional symptoms, you want them to be able, if they don't want to reach out to someone that they know, they can call the emergency numbers and have someone on the other line to be able to be there with them to support them. And so this is an example of a safety plan, right? Yeah, so this is an example of a safety plan. Ways in which you can keep yourself safe, right? So the person, the signs that I'm in crisis, as I mentioned to you, I might not want to eat, I might be in bed all day. In this case, the person would be experiencing insomnia. They would be planning how they're going to attempt suicide. They're going to be agitated. What are the reasons that they want to live? So remember, this was the plan. Which was the plan? Right, this is the example, sorry. Where am I? I just lost myself. Okay, right. So this is the safety plan. What are the signs? What are the reasons? And now we are looking at the example as how to create a safety plan. And that is, these are the things that you're looking for. People you can contact, people that may lift your spirits, your mom, your dad, your friend, who you would share your feelings with. A pastor, who you would get advice from in regard to coping and safety, your therapist or your sister. So you're itemizing this and you're keeping it. The person is going to keep it so that when they are in that crisis moment, they can pull this out and look at it to know if they are in crisis, what are the steps that they can do that can help to reduce these intense emotional pain. So one, they may want to take a shower, they may want to do a puzzle, they may want to play music, they may want to go for a walk, they may want to listen to an audiobook, whatever it is that can get them away from that feeling of hopelessness. One of the things you can do as well is safety word cloud. This might be something new that you might be hearing, the safety word cloud. So let's take a step back a little bit from that crisis plan. So it talks about who to bring in and who to contact for some, right? Who to contact and who to bring in. Now, it's very hard for them to be vulnerable and open and talk to people, right? Generally, it's very hard for people who are contemplating suicide to open up. Very hard. And so some of them may have tried to talk to people and they may have had negative reactions. And even if they are people that they love, right? So maybe they will share that they are suicidal. And the person tells them, "Girl, don't worry about that now. Take that out of your mind. Just look on the bright side." You know how we like to be the bright and shiny, optimistic friend. So we be negating how they are feeling now by telling them, "Girl, don't worry about that. Take that out of your mind. Just look on the bright side. Be positive. Think positive thought." You want to say, everything's going to be okay. They, in that moment, they are feeling dismissed. So one of the exercises that can be helpful would be to explore what are the things that they need in those moments for them to feel emotional safety, for people who they can talk to when they're experiencing crisis. And so moving back to the 3-step theory that we talked about, how pain is present for when people desire suicide. So it's important to find ways to soothe the emotional pain. And so there are short-term strategies. And this safety word cloud, you can go on Google and you can research safety word so that they can come up with words that they would write. They want to feel loving. They want to feel love. They want to experience compassion. They want to be they don't want to be judged. They want to be around people who is gentle. They want to be around people who's listening to them, who's kind to them, who's patient. You know, these are the safety word cloud. So in that moment, this is what they want from you. They want you to be loving. They want you to be kind. They want you to be caring. They want you to be compassionate. You know, so you can help them come up with words that they can think about, that they would want you to share or be there for them in that supportive way. So these are some effective strategies that can help to soothe emotional pain. They are short-term strategies, but keep in mind that someone who's contemplating suicide is because they are going through excruciating pain. And so we want to be able to help them to soothe that pain. It might be short-term strategies that tend to be, but it can be helpful because those qualities can now absorb the attention. So the influence, that influence where the person is in a physical way, right, or in a positive way that evoke positive feelings. When we think about why people desire suicide, or the types of things that they might do to cope with pain, whether it's substance abuse or what it is, whether it be self-harm or other types of behaviors, the reason they effectively take people away from the pain is because they are absorbing that, and the attention they are feeling physically, it's evoking positive feelings. So whatever strategy that you are going to use with your friend or your child, whatever strategy that you are attempting to use with them, it must absorb that emotional pain. It must absorb that that feeling of loneliness. It must absorb it, and it must be able to influence them in a positive way. It must be able to evoke positive feelings. So whatever strategy you are trying to help them to deal emotionally, this is what the goal should be. So what you want to try is to find healthy ways to channel those elements that are healthy and are effective and would not lead to regret, that would not lead to creating more problems. And so you must find ways and categories that can validate the reason or the person, and you must and help them to develop coping strategies. And so because they are effective at helping them soothe pain, we are not going to just stop doing what we are doing. We are going to try and find ways that can soothe that pain, that are healthy and that are good for their well-being. That is the objective.
We can't see the screen.
Oh, you can't see the screen? You seen it now?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So this part soothe emotional pain. I'm saying that these short-term strategies, this is what it must do. The objective of these strategies to help anyone soothe their emotional pain would be for them to absorb the attention of the pain, influence them in a positive way, and evoke positive emotions. Now, this is an example, 10 ways in which you can quickly soothe emotional pain. There are things that you can try. You can try progressive muscle relaxation. You can try praying. You can try meditation. You can try yoga. You can wrap yourself in your favorite blanket and listen to music or watch a movie. You can look at a stand-up comedy that will make you laugh. You can step outside and focus on a scenery or go into nature. You can do art. You can draw, you can color. When you begin to color, you know, these paintings that have these drawings that have really fine pictures, when you begin to draw or color those fine drawings, what it says to do is it takes your mind away from whatever you are feeling, because you are concentrating so much on coloring and coloring it beautifully that your mind, you are lost in that art project, and you may have just given yourself some time, you know, where you are no longer feeling that emotional pain. You can listen to an audiobook, because while listening to that audiobook, now your mind is taken away from what you're feeling and thinking into the words of someone else speaking into your mind. You can be around loved ones. A hug can do wonders. I've heard, and it's proven research-wise, when you get a good hug, you can feel like you just had a release of pain and stress. Some people like to drink tea, and when they drink their tea, they feel relaxed. Some people like to go play sports. Some people like to exercise. So remember, I said that this plan is specific to you. So find ways that can quickly soothe your emotional pain. What works for you will not work for me, but it is okay to think that it is an individualized plan. So for me, I know that take me out in nature, carry me in the bush somewhere, carry me for a drive somewhere, let me get some fresh air, and I will come back feeling brand new. And I can share personal experience with you. Like I've been, most of us, we've been working home for the past, year, half, year and three quarter. Now I love it. I do not want to go back to work. I love working from home. But even though I love working from home, being in a house with four walls can become draining mentally eventually. No matter how strong you are, no matter how positive you are, it does not matter that I am in the field of mental health. And so a couple of weeks ago, I felt overwhelmed. I began to feel sad. I began to go into a state of, let me say, depression, but I didn't know why. Because I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way though? Nothing is going on in my life for me to feel this way. Why is this feeling coming over me? But remember, I told you all, have people that you can talk to. So I have that inner circle. My cousin called me. I said, boy, I'm feeling not myself. He said, yeah, you're not sounding like yourself. You know what? I'm coming to check you tomorrow. Then I spoke to another friend and I said, I'm not feeling like myself. And he said, Oosh, you probably just need some sunlight. You've been in this house for so long, you probably didn't even realize that you never went outside. You probably just need some sunlight. And I did exactly that. My cousin picked me up. We went driving Maracas Beach. We stopped, we get food, we come out, we take pictures, we eat, we laugh. I come home. I felt like a brand new person. When Sabbath reached, I picked up a girlfriend of mine and we went to the bush and we lie down in the bush and we relax, and I come back feeling, wow. Sunday morning now I went with my co-workers. We went for a little hike. Listen to me, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days of being in the bush and being out in nature. I could not even remember what it was that made me feel overwhelmed, what it was that made me feel stressed, what it was that made me feel sad. So for me, I know and my friends know, when Usha is feeling in her low place, take her out of that spot, take her out of that space, take her out of that house, and just take her for a drive, take her to the bush, whatever it is, because nature does wonders to me, and nature will do wonders to anybody, because that is the effect of nature. Now, things you shouldn't say to people who are suicidal. You know how we like to say, girl, I know how you feel. No, you don't know how I feel, because you have never been in what I am going through. You have never been through that. So don't tell me that you know how I feel. So remember, these are things you do not want to tell people. You do not want to say, I know how you feel. You don't want to say, boy, other people have it worse. You have a roof over your head, you have food, you have water, you have clothes. Why are you even thinking about suicide? That is highly insensitive and it invalidates their struggles. So you don't want to say those things that would make them feel worse. You don't want to say, hey, listen, think about your family and friends now. Think about what they will be going through and what they will feel if you die. No, you're not making this about others. You need to make it about them, because what you are saying there is going to cause more harm and pain to them, because they are already struggling emotionally, right? So you don't want to make it about you by saying, listen, if you die, you know what this will do to me? Think about what I would feel if you die. Why are you making this about you though? So if you're going to tell them, don't be selfish, it's a myth and it's a falsehood. Suicide is selfish. It's a symptom of a mental illness. No, it is not selfish. And it is not a myth, it is real. We don't tell people who are battling with cancer that they are selfish when they don't want to be around others, or they don't want to take treatment anymore. We don't tell them that they are selfish. We don't blame someone who has cancer for getting cancer. So why are we blaming someone who's struggling with a mental illness and say, it is you, it is your fault, you are the reason why you are like that. And while we Caribbean people like to be funny, or we think we are funny, there's a time and a place for everything, and that might not be the time to tell one of your jokes, right? So remember that. Instead of you saying all these things that you should not say, how about you try saying, I may never understand how you feel, but I just want you to know that I am here for you all the way. Then give them all the support that they need, right? And listen to them. Try to listen without judging them. And then try to listen without invalidating their struggles or what they are going through. And when I say listen without judging, your facial expression can speak wonders, okay? So try to ensure that when you are listening, no matter what they are saying, that you are listening with compassion, you are listening with empathy, you are listening with kindness, and you are listening because you genuinely love and want to be there for this person. It's not about saying, listen, I am here for you, you know, but right now is not a good time. Let me call you, let me be there for you tomorrow. It's not about your time, and it's about what they are feeling or what they are going through. Many of us want to say, I am here to listen. Anytime you need anything, call me. But you know what? It must be on your time. It must not be when they actually need you, right? So keep in mind, these are some things that you want to not say to someone. How do you support someone who is suicidal? You try to not minimize what they are feeling. Try not to invalidate what they are feeling. You try to ask them what it is that they need. Some of them may be vocal enough to tell you, like how I wasn't thinking suicide, but I was vocal enough to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I know that what I'm feeling is not normal. And I know that I need something, but I don't know exactly what it is I need. Listen, you can get somebody just as confusing as what I did, you know. But I had people around me who knew me well enough to say, Usha, you've been inside the house too long, you need some sun, you need some vitamin D, right? So when you ask them what they need, some of them may be vocal enough to say it, but some of them may not be, right? You want to listen without judgment and without shaming. You want to be their advocate. So you want to drive them to the appointment to see their counselor. You want to take them to the hospital. You want to be around them as much as possible. You want to let them know that they aren't a burden, because they are feeling a burden. So the fact that you are even driving them to where they need to go, they are going to feel as though they're a burden. You're going to say, listen, this is not a burden. What you need, I am here for you. Whatever you need, whenever you need, I am here for you. You want me to come and spend the night with you? You want to come and spend the night over by me? Whatever you need, I am here for you. And the person needs to believe you. They need to believe that you are there for them no matter what they need. Help them to create a safety plan. And we went through that today, how to create a safety plan. You point them in the direction of helpful resources. You may not have the capability or the expertise to help them the way they need help. And so you must be able to direct them to someone. Talk to your pastor. Listen, my pastor, he or she, listen, they train, talk to them. Or talk to this counselor that I know, or talk to this therapist, or you know what, I'll pay for you to talk to someone. Do whatever it takes to help them. Encourage self-care and taking care of basic needs. It's amazing how a little bit of self-care, what it can do to your mental health and what it can do to you even feeling good about yourself. So encourage them and do it with them. And try to be as present as you can with them. There are some people who just can't be trusted to be alone during that time. So as much as possible, you want to have them around people all the time. So even if you have to develop a schedule to say, listen, John, you go and spend some time, a couple hours. When you're leaving, let me know. This one, whatever. So you want to be able to ensure that, you know, the person is around others and they're not by themselves. You need to know how to help someone, right? The pain that they are feeling, it may not always be obvious to you because some of them would be very good at masking it. But I would have given you enough signs today for you to even, for you to pay attention enough that you can recognize that this person needs a little more attention. because suicide is something that is preventable. Because keep in mind, just like Kevin Hines, they were feeling overwhelmed, they were feeling burdened, they were feeling hopeless, and all they needed was for someone, even that lady who asked Kevin Hines, would you take a picture of me? Imagine he just wanted someone to just have a conversation with him, just to say, what's going on? You're not looking like, you're looking sad. Is everything okay? And in that moment, he probably would have offloaded and talked about whatever it was, and he probably would not have jumped. And when he did jump, he regretted the second he jumped. So let us take them seriously. Let us not wait until they die and then they say, I wish that I was there. I wish that they had come and spoken to me, but the signs were there and you ignored it. So pay attention, take them seriously. Don't act shocked, don't act upset when they come to you, whatever it is that they are coming to you about. If you are in a different place mentally, and therefore you will handle whatever they are going through different. And when they come to you with it, you might be like, that is what you're stressing out over. No, your mental health and your emotional strength is different. Your coping capabilities, it is different. You have to treat each individual and take each individual seriously. Don't push them to open up faster than they are comfortable opening up. Allow them to speak on their terms when they are ready, but at least you are present and you are letting them know that you are here for them, you are listening to them, you are empathizing with them, you are showing support, you are showing love. You don't want to be a lecturer, you don't want to give advice, but you want to just simply be present. Show love, show compassion. That is what you want to do. How to support someone you are worried about. Well, number one, if you recognize the signs that we spoke about today, you want to talk about it with that person. You want to open the conversation, because and when you open the conversation, you don't want to act shocked. It is important that you remain calm. It is important that you are non-judgmental, and you make sure that that both of you are in a safe space to be able to speak openly, for the person to be able to share how they are feeling. Because many times you don't want to go rituals to sit and talk about something like this. The person would not feel comfortable opening up and sharing, because there are too many persons that will be around and their privacy will be invaded. So you want to ensure that the environment that you choose, one, is a safe environment, and two, it's an environment where they will feel comfortable opening up to you. Avoid using the word commit when discussing suicide, because mentally, psychologically, it is rooted in criminal association, because it was once recognized as a criminal act when you commit something, right? So be prepared that they may not be ready to have the conversation with you, but at least they know that you are open enough and that you are non-judgmental, and that when they are ready, you are ready to have that conversation. Do not pretend that it does not exist. Do not shut it away as though it's not something you want to ever talk about it again. Have a very open space, a very transparent, open, loving space where you can constantly check in on this person. Hey, how are you doing today? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're having these suicidal thoughts, 0 being you're happy. Where are you? The person may say, well, I am probably at a 6. Okay, then have you looked at your safety plan? Is there anything that you, and so those are some of the things that you can ask by gently checking in, and always refer them to that safety plan, so that they can now talk to someone who will be more qualified to assist them. Now I'm going to show you all this video. I found it on Instagram, and I thought it was such a sweet, sweet, sweet video. And I just had to add it to my presentation today.
Yes.
How are you? You're not good. You didn't get up.
I'm good, Grandma.
Huh?
I'm just resting.
You want some food? Should I bring some?
Yeah, what's there to eat?
Huh?
What's there to eat?
I don't know what there is. I didn't eat anything yet.
Oh, okay. I'll come, Hassan. I'll make something for us.
Huh?
I'll make something for us.
Are you going to get up?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so happy to see you. I'm always happy to see you.
Me too.
Stay well.
Okay.
Please.
Stay well. As simple as grandma went looking for her granddaughter in the bedroom. That is something might seem simple to you all, but someone who is going through something emotionally, it is the most powerful thing that what you may need. You just want someone to show that you're loved. You just want someone to show that they care. And grandma said, grandma is so smart. Grandma is worried that she didn't get up. And grandma said, listen, I just want you to stay well. And sometimes that's all the person wants to know. They want to know that you care enough that you want them here and you want them to stay well. And so people are dying. People are dying on a daily basis, as I did the statistics and I showed you all earlier, right? But people may not be comfortable coming to us to tell us what they are struggling with because we use it as an opportunity to gossip about them instead of helping them. So let us recognize the importance of confidentiality, of trust, and mental health. So when someone comes to you about something that they are struggling with, just remember the amount of energy and effort that it took for them to come to you and tell you this. They didn't come and tell you this for you to go and tell Tom, Jane, and Harry. No, they came to you because they trust you and they want you to support them, not for you to gossip about them. And so when the individual, when they are ready, this is what you can do. You can ask them directly. When you're asking them, are you thinking about suicide? Are you having thoughts about killing yourself? They would realize that you are open to the conversation and they would feel more comfortable talking about, well, you know what? The thought did cross my mind. And so by asking directly, you are actually inviting that person to talk openly and to break down the stigma of suicidal thoughts. When you ask, you need to listen, actively listening by nodding, right? If they are okay with touch, you might want to put your hand on their arm or their hand. You want to put away your phone. You don't want to be distracted by your phone, by text messages. Put your phone on silent. You don't want to be answering the phone. You want to give them that undivided attention, and you want to ask these open-ended questions to get information from them to find out where they are in this trend of thought. How long have they been thinking about it? Did they come up with any ways in which they want to kill themselves? Did they put things in place to kill themselves? You know, so you want to find out how long have you felt this way. You want to assure them, I'm sorry that you are feeling this way. I know that things are hard for you at the moment, but can you tell me more about what you're feeling? So you're letting them open up what exactly they are feeling, how they are feeling, because sometimes they may not have anybody to talk to, and you might be the only person in that moment that they are talking to. So get them to talk about their feelings. No judgment, no matter what they share with you, no judgment. And you want to affirm what they are feeling. And by affirming what they're feeling, you want to say something like, you must have felt so alone and scared with those thoughts, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. And you can tell me about it and you can tell me how you feel and how you are feeling, because I am here for you. When they are ready, after you listen, you want to reassure them. You want to reassure them by letting them know you are not alone in this. I am here for you and I'm here to support you and I want to help you to get through this. There's no rush. Take your time. Whenever you are ready to open up, just know that I am here for you, whatever you need. And you want to encourage them. You know, this is a very difficult time for you. This is something difficult for you to talk about, but I want to encourage you to talk to someone, talk to a professional, talk to a pastor, talk to a therapist, talk to a psychologist, talk to a counselor. I will even call and set up the appointment for you if you're willing. You know, encourage them to talk to someone professionally, because you can only do so much, but what you can do can actually help to save their life. So do your part, but at the end of the day, encourage them to speak to someone who is a professional. And so remember this though, suicide wears many faces. Suicide can look like me. Suicide can look like you. And so when things are hard, I want you to remember to take it one day at a time. And if one day at a time seems too much, I want you to take it 1 hour at a time. And if 1 hour seems still too much, take it 1 minute at a time. Because you will get through this, whatever those thoughts are, whatever it is that you are feeling, you will get through it. And so don't judge someone and say, well, Kara look like she have things under control, man. She don't look like she just have these thoughts. Suicide, there's no discrimination against suicide. Anyone of any color, any race, any size, any shape can have suicidal thoughts. So let us not think that someone who thinking about suicide is someone who do not have their life put together. Suicide wears many, many, many faces. And so as I close, I want to close with something from the Bible. And in 1 Kings 19, 1-5, in verse 4, it spoke about Elijah. Because of his problems, he became very depressed and he actually gave up on life and he was contemplating suicide. And he asked God to die. He refused to eat and he just laid down and just wished that he could have died. But God sent an angel twice to touch him and to wake him up and to bring him food and to ask him to eat. And so you can be that angel in someone's life. You can be that angel who might call someone and wake them up and give them a word of encouragement. You can be that angel who might be taking food for someone. You might be that angel who might take someone to their doctor. And God might be using you to be that angel. And so through God's intervention and support, Elijah did overcome his suicidal thoughts. And just like how Elijah overcame his suicidal thoughts through the support of the angels, through the support of God's intervention, so too you and anyone else who's experiencing those thoughts can overcome those suicidal thoughts. And if you need someone to talk to during the times of having those thoughts, these are some numbers that you can call locally. You can reach out to if you don't want to talk to your pastor and you don't want to talk to your members and you don't want to talk to your parents and you don't want to talk to your brother, your sister, or your friend. You can speak to someone in these hotlines and they will be able to take you through these suicidal thoughts that you're experiencing. And so I hope and trust that this presentation would have been helpful for you. National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month is the entire month. And I hope that you continue to advocate, you continue to share little tips and bits and quotes so that someone may be able to know that you care. During this month, reach out to someone whom you may not normally reach out to, just to say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. I'm just making sure that you're okay. You know, so try to reach out to someone during this month. Not just this month, but I'm emphasizing this month because it's suicide prevention. But reach out to any and everyone. Don't just look at your pastor and think, Pastor Goodman, he don't need anybody to reach out to him. Even your pastor may need somebody to reach out to. So show love, show care, show compassion, and reach out to someone to show your love and your support during this time. So I thank you so much for your time. And I trust and I pray and I hope that it was beneficial to you all and you all learned something and that you all can take away something from it that can help you to support others who are going through some type of emotional, psychological pain. Kyra, I'm back to you.
Jesse, over to you now.
Because she didn't go. She just stayed there. You want anything to eat? And the person was like, all right. And then it's like, I don't know what it has to eat, you know, but she's just there. And the granddaughter, she was just like, all right, well, I'll get up and make something, you know. So appreciating the person and letting them know, hey, I am there for you. If there's anything you need, I am here. People like to know, I am here. You can count on me. Have a blessed evening, and I'll now ask each and every one to bow their heads.
Jesse, 1 minute, please. Jesse, 1 minute before we close off. I'm seeing
Heavenly Father, you created us to live, and we appreciate the presentation that was shared, dear Lord, that there are persons who, and it's a real fact, are giving up on life. And we are light. We are beacons, dear Lord, in this world to bring hope and to inspire those who we come across. But we can only do it in your strength. So I pray, dear Lord, that you would encourage us as we encourage others. I pray that you would help us as we help others. Dear Lord, continue to let us not look after our own business and our own self, but to reach out and see about other person's business, dear Lord, and take an active role in other person's lives, especially in this pandemic where we are so socially distanced from each other. We thank you for our presenter, Usha Ramlakan, and we pray that you continue to bless her in her future endeavors. Also be with each person on this Zoom and our family members, dear Lord, those who we interact with. Continue to give us your grace as we hold and trust you to lead us in the different endeavors of our life. Bless, and Lord, you take control. It's our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jessie. Before we go, Usha, I'm seeing a couple of questions.
I saw it, yes.
Yes.
I saw it. No problem. So I saw Abiola ask, I want to know how could you tell if someone is pretending or not? And so that is something that is called, that pretend that you're talking about, there's actually a name for it, and it's called malingering. And that is, there's no specific symptoms or set of symptoms that can help to detect. So that's why it's so difficult to detect if someone is pretending. People may give inconsistent or over intense descriptions of their symptoms, and so there's no one way to determine it. It can lead to different levels, so it could lead to it, but it's not something that you should take lightly. It is something that also needs to be diagnosed, but there's no specific set of symptoms that can identify if someone is malingering, which is pretending. That type of pretending can cause by different situational factors. So it has a whole area by itself, but it is difficult to know how common it is for people to fake depression or other mental illnesses. It is believed to happen more frequently, though in specific contexts, but people can fake it, but it's difficult too. And so it's necessary that if you think someone is thinking about it, but they are faking it, that will be beyond your capability. And that is when you would need to get a professional just to be able to talk to the individual to even see if there can be a diagnosis. So it will be beyond your capability as it relates to the diagnosis. Next question we had, what is the difference between being stressed out and having suicidal thoughts? Now, there are different levels of being stressed or experiencing stress, but the suicidal thoughts would be some of the elements or the signs that I would have mentioned to you all earlier. Now, is the person thinking about suicide? Suicidal thoughts is different. Suicidal thoughts is you are thinking about, actively thinking about killing yourself. You are thinking about where, you are thinking about when, you are thinking about how. If you have those thoughts, then it means that you are having suicidal thoughts. Being stressed out means that you need to learn how to cope with stress and life challenges. It can lead to you feeling overwhelmed if you do not know how to cope with life challenges. If you do not know how to manage and how to cope with stress, it can then lead you into that point where you are feeling overwhelmed, where you are feeling hopeless, where you are feeling like this is not making sense to me, this is hopeless, and then it may lead, from being stressed out, not learning how to cope, not knowing how to manage, it can lead to the end result of suicidal thoughts, but it don't have to be there. And that is what I was sharing with you all tonight. It don't have to be there. It don't have to end up there. But if it does, it also doesn't mean that you that there's no hope. You can't come out of it, but with help. Right. So so there's two questions. The third one was, do you accept the argument that today's generation are too thin-skinned, hence the increased incidences of suicides among our youth? I am assuming that statistics show that suicides among the youths have in fact increased. I would not say thin skin. I would say that we have to help our young people, and not just our young people, but people in general, because based on the statistics that I would have shared with you all earlier, it is not just young people that is facing suicide. It's more than 700 people die of suicide every year. And so I would not use the word thin-skinned. Mental health have nothing to do with being thin-skinned. Mental health is now taking, we're now taking time to recognize mental health and the impact it is having. And so I would not use the word thin-skinned. Definitely, we are now coming to appreciate or be open about talking about mental health. It was a taboo topic, it still is to some degree. And we are now allowing ourselves to be transparent about what we are feeling and what we are going through. And we need to create a safe space for our young people to be able to share what they are struggling with and what they are battling with. For far too long within the church system, we have made people think that mental health is not something that Christians face. And so they battle in silence by themselves. And so we need to create a space where we can talk about it openly and not see it as you are weak and you are strong. When someone is diagnosed with cancer, we don't say they are weak or they are strong. We say that, you know, it's not their fault. So why do we want to assign blame to someone who's struggling with mental health, to say that you just thin-skinned, you know, all the young people these days just don't know how to toughen up. Why we don't say that to people who are who were diagnosed with cancer, by saying that to them? Because we see one as it's not their fault, and we see the other as though it is their fault. And we need to reach the point where we don't see mental health as anyone's fault, but it is everyone's business, right? Okay, I think that's the last question, Kyra. So thank you all for having me, Longdenville. I miss you guys. Can't wait for when we can meet and mingle and I can get that hug. You know, I miss hugging my Longdenville people. But thank you so much, Kyra, for having me. It was a pleasure being here, and it's always a pleasure serving. So thank you all.